It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening and welcome to the Wacky Wednesday edition of ZiFM Sport, your favorite sports show on your favorite station. Exciting show to look forward to today with an exciting team, and that team is Christine Midzi, Alois Bunjira, Barry Manandi, myself, Mike Madoda, and our producer, Sean Tafirinika. Here's hoping that you're going to enjoy the next 50 or so minutes. The stories that you can look forward to on the home front: Zimbabwe champions FC Platinum's preparations for the Champions League have been dealt a major blow after the Confederation of African Football barred their Dutch coach Peter de Jongh from sitting on the bench during the tournament because he doesn't have the requisite qualifications. We also have some international sports news for you. Rafael Nadal insists he can still win the ATP finals for the first time despite a damaging 7-6 defeat against Austria's Dominic Thiem last night. You might have heard me earlier mention that it's Wacky Wednesday. Well, it's not just because of the stories, which sometimes are wacky, or the music, which is definitely wacky, but that's because today we're introducing a new segment which will come straight after our play of the day, and it's the Plonker of the Week, where we get to choose our Mampara of the Week, the person who gets into Sports Hall of Shame.
We'll also take you around the world in 60, lifting off in Australia, where fast bowler Kane Richardson has withdrawn from Australia's limited over squad, which will face India to stay with his wife and newborn son in Adelaide. In news from New Zealand, All Black skipper Sam Cane has hit back at critics, questioning his leadership in the wake of last week's shock defeat by Argentina, accusing them of being ignorant about rugby. And we'll touch down in South Africa, where Caster Semenya will appeal to the European Courts of Human Rights to challenge regulations that require her to artificially lower her natural testosterone levels.
We'll take in our play of the day. Then it's time for the beautiful game. Two great counter-attacking goals from Nico Gonzalez and Lautaro Martinez saw Argentina make light work of Peru in South American World Cup qualifiers early this morning. In Europe, Germany, coach Joachim Löw, Yogi Löw, was at a loss to explain his side's humiliating 6-0 loss to Spain in the UEFA Nations League clash, which caused them to miss out on a place in the competition's Final Four. And we'll look ahead to tonight's action, where Poland and Netherlands square off in Krakow, knowing that they both require victory to retain hope of qualifying for the Final Four. All of that and so much more to look forward to in this edition of ZiFM Sport. But first, our power play, Harry Styles. This is called Watermelon Sugar.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Don't forget, we always love to hear from you on Twitter at ZiFM Sport, even in our individual capacities. Simply search for us by name. And also, if you know someone who would love to listen in on the show but can't catch it live on air at 6:05, tell them that they can find the show on YouTube. They must simply search for ZiFM Sport. Now, our big story is out of Zhishavane, or is it Egypt, depending on which perspective that you take a look at it from. It's the news that's come out of CAF headquarters. Big blow to Zhishavane club FC Platinum, as CAF has come out and said that their coach, the Dutchman Peter de Jongh, is barred from sitting on the bench during the CAF Champions League tournament because he doesn't have the requisite qualifications. Now, CAF requires all coaches in its flagship interclub competition to be holders of a CAF A coaching license, while coaches who have trained outside Africa are required to have a pro license coaching certificate. FC Platinum's Jongh holds a UEFA A coaching badge, which makes him ineligible to lead the Zimbabwe champions in the CAF Champions League, where they are set to play Costa do Sol of Mozambique in the preliminary round. Alois, you've got to say that this is something of a big setback for FC Platinum because we all know the importance of Peter de Jong. We all know that he's a man who sort of like added some fuel to the fire to FC Platinum, and they would have loved to have him sitting on the bench when they take on Costa do Sol.
Yeah, it's a big blow for FC Platinum. You know, they already have other issues that are affecting them in terms of preparation and all. But now, look at the situation now. Their head coach, we all know how much influence a coach can have on the bench. So it's actually unfortunate that FC Platinum find themselves in this kind of situation. How? I don't know. If those requisites or if those requirements were not part of the communication that they got from CAF right at the beginning, we don't know. So I'm not so sure what exactly has happened here, because I want to understand that last season I think he took charge of a few games towards the end of last season. So I'm not sure what is really happening there.
Now, Barry, we all know the importance of a coach in terms of preparing the team for battle. Peter de Jong has been very active on social media, and he's obviously come out showing us, what he's been doing with his team, getting his boys up to speed, and no doubt he was looking forward to this campaign in the CAF Champions League. I think it's the primary reason why he left Highlanders, where he was doing so well, to join FC Platinum, because he wanted to go into the shop window on the continent, and there's no bigger shop window than the CAF Champions League. Now, for FC Platinum, is there a way they can do without him sitting on the bench? And do you think that they can be as effective as he would, as they would be if he was on it?
Well, the easy answer to the last part of that is that no, they won't be as effective as they would have been with him sitting on the bench, because obviously he lays out the tactics. He knows that he can do the in-game management that you mentioned earlier in terms of tweaking whatever system he's using, whatever stimuli that's coming from the opposition or whatever the case may be, so he can respond to that. Now, having someone else bark orders that are now third-person communication, look, you're likely to have Chinese whispers at the worst, and then at the best, some things might be lost in translation. So it's a bit of a challenge there, especially given that the only assistant that's remaining at FC Platinum is Patrick Mandija, who doesn't hold a CAF A qualification himself, so he can't sit on the bench. So the two guys who are preparing the team both can't sit on the bench because obviously they got rid of Lee's. They are in crisis on the basis that now you've got the real prospect that none of the coaching staff, the technical team, will be able to be on the sideline.
There's two things we need to look at here, just building on what Barry has said. The first question I want to ask you is, you know what, surely someone from FC Platinum must have known what a CAF required of the coaches to sit on the bench. And secondly, surely someone at FC Platinum must have known that Lizo Sweswe, who they showed the exit door, was the only man who actually qualified to sit on the bench, and yet he's gone. So does this speak of poor recruitment from FC Platinum, poor decisions from FC Platinum?
I wouldn't say poor decisions. I would just say almost half-baked. I think that when they brought on De Jong, I think one of the things they were looking at was, first of all, who's the coach that we can get the quickest, the easiest to make a replacement. That was the first thing. And in terms of looking at his actual qualifications, I'm sure at some point it must have popped up and they might have thought about it. But I think there was almost a slip where they didn't then follow through, and now they're in a situation where this is a requirement that they needed to have, that they need for him to sit on the bench, and they don't have it.
Here's the thing, Chris. How then do you go ahead? How do you follow through to recruit a coach who you know is not going to be allowed to sit on the bench when you know that primarily you are a Champions League club? You're the champions of Zimbabwe. You're going to be participating in the CAF Champions League. Why are you bringing in someone who doesn't have the qualifications and isn't allowed?
again, knee-jerk reaction. I think there wasn't a full thought process in terms of going forward and continuity and actually in the CAF Champions League, even though they are a CAF Champions League team. I think they just wanted to recruit quickly, and in that hasty moment, they did recruit Jongh, and they thought, you know what, he's going to be able to do the job for now. Possibly they thought, you know what, we might be able to get this qualification for him or to get the exemption, which obviously they didn't manage to get. I think the biggest blunder was then letting go of Lizwe Sweswe, who was one of those people who was going to be able to sit on the bench, so someone who knew the team. And I think that's what the another problem, another layer to this problem is that they got rid of someone or lost someone who was then going to be able to fill the gap. And I think that's the biggest problem.
Send us your thoughts on Twitter at ZFM Sport. Don't forget, I did say in our individual capacities, at Christine Midzi, at Barry Manandi, at Gazaman14 for Alois Munjira, at Sean Tafirenyika, at Mike Madoda, as well as at Barry Manandi. Did I mention you, Barry? Or I skipped you out? Did I leave you out? I think I did mention at Barry Manandi.
No, I think you captain.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me come to you, Alois. Peter de Jong holds a UEFA Pro license. Now, they say that the UEFA Pro license is valid for 2 years, so there's still speculation out there as to whether Peter de Jong's qualifications are still valid. Has he bothered to renew his license in the last 24 months or not? People don't know. Could it be that which attracted FC Platinum, that UEFA Pro license? It's bound to be attractive for any club in Africa to say, we've got a coach with a UEFA Pro license, and yet they didn't look at the local needs. What are the needs on the continent?
I'm not sure if from what I heard that he doesn't have a pro license. A pro license is actually acceptable with CAF. That's what they want. They say that he has got a UEFA A license. So I think the problem now came with the issue with the Zimbabwe Football Association that exempted the UEFA A license to be used here in Zimbabwe. So probably that's where FC Platinum set back. And if he can coach in Zimbabwe, then he can coach in Africa. So this discrepancy, I think there needs to be a very good communication or aligning of all the rules and standards across Africa. There is need for that kind of community. That if you can have a player that is coaching in your Premier League, but he doesn't. So CAF must be clean on that. And I don't think that communication came in to the Zimbabwe Football Association, who then sent out this information to the clubs. I actually, Mike, in situations like this is a bureaucratic issue that the information must filter through from your football association. So I would be happy or interested to know that if that communication was sent to the clubs, probably at the beginning of every season, that these are the Zimbabwean Football Association requirements and these are the CAF requirements for clubs. Because in this situation, we can't have to wait for clubs to come back and say, we are asking for this information. We are asking for this information individually. This is information that is supposed to be broadcast to the clubs so that clubs know. So I'm interested to know when this requirement outside of the UEFA A license was sent in to the Zimbabwe Football Association, who in turn communicates with clubs. Because clubs don't communicate with CAF. CAF communicates with ZiFM. So I would be interested to know what is really happening there, because FC Platinum obviously were acting on the issue, so they were exempted to use Jongh in the Zimbabwe local league.
Absolutely, there, Alois, and of course, so this is a story that's developing, and it's one that we'll endeavor to keep you updated on here on ZFM Sport. FC Platinum, they are preparing to play away versus Costa do Sol on the weekend of November 27 to 29 in the first leg of the preliminary round, and then they will host the Mozambicans between December 4 and 6, and that's another thing that's up in the air as well. Where will they play Costa do Sol? Will it be at Mandava out in Zvishavane, or will they be able to use Barber Fields, which has been condemned out in Bulawayo, or will they end up having to use the National Sports Stadium here in the capital? So that's all up in the air, and a lot of things up in the air for FC Platinum, but the one that's giving them the biggest headache is who will be barking the orders from the bench when they take on the Mozambican champions.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
Let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with cricket, where Zimbabwe Director of Cricket Hamilton Masakadza has hailed the inaugural National Premier League champions Takashinga. The Highfield side were handed their trophy and prize money of $10,000 US dollars at Harare Sports Club yesterday. Takashinga won the tournament earlier this month. The presentation ceremony was graced by ZC chairperson Tavengo Mkutlani and acting managing director Givmo Makoni. On to boxing news, where the Zimbabwe national bantamweight boxing champion Patience Mastara returned home from Tanzania yesterday morning after a unanimous points decision loss to five-time World Boxing Council WBC champion Fatuma Zarika of Kenya on Saturday. According to Mastara's manager Boris Snyder, the Zimbabwean champion first had to contend with the short notice given for the fight, and as if that wasn't enough, she also had to go some weight up to narrow the gap between her and her opponent. Wrapping it up with motorsport news, where the organizers of the country's premier motorcycling event, the Zimbabwe Summer Series, the Bog Wheelers Club, who run motocross in this country under Motorsport Zimbabwe, are seeking to hold the 3-day annual meet next month. The exciting competition is usually held during the second week of December and marks the end of the motocross season.
Hi, this is Mike Madod, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
Don't forget, later on in the beautiful game, we'll be wrapping up what's happening in the UEFA Nations League. It all comes to a head this evening, and then it's back to the league program. So we'll wrap that up and tie it up in a nice little bow for you in the second half of the show. But first, our international sports news, where we focus on tennis. And Rafael Nadal insisted he can still win the ATP finals for the first time, despite a damaging 7-6, 7-6 defeat against Austria's Dominic Thiem last night. Thiem overpowered Nadal behind closed doors at London's O2 Arena to put a dent in the Spanish star's bid to finally lift the one major prize missing from his packed trophy cabinet. Despite his perilous position, Nadal goes into the showdown against Tsitsipas in a confident mood, as the winner is guaranteed to progress to the final four.
Well, he had 3 match points, but I had 5-2 in the first set and 2 serves in the tiebreak. So have been a great match of tennis, decided for a few small details. Just well done to him. He played, I think, an amazing match, and I played well too. So my feeling is not negative. I lost, but I had plenty of chances in the first, and then I had break up in the second. No, nothing to say. Just well done to Dominic. I am happy the way that I played. I think my chances are bigger to have a very good result now than 5 days ago, because the level of tennis, even if I lost today, for me is much higher.
Z. Now, Micah, I think in terms of context, it is a setback, but certainly doesn't derail the opportunity to progress for Rafael Nadal. He's had a fantastic 2020, which is hard to say given the horrific year that everybody has experienced. And it'll be great if he can top that off by winning the ATP finals, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But Barry, it's a tournament that he doesn't do so well at. But he won't be panicking based on that result versus Dominic Thiem, because he lost in straight sets, but it was off the back of those tie breaks. He lost 7-6, 7-6. And in tie breaks, you got to go out and sort of like win the point, the extra point that will take you over the edge. And if you take a look at Dominic Thiem was hitting winners. The stats tell us that he hit 37 winners in total in that match versus Rafael Nadal, whilst Nadal only managed to strike 25. So in terms of just managing to hit the winners, Dominic Thiem was playing the better tennis, so he was always going to be the favorite to win the tie breaks, and that is what he did, to win 7-6, 7-6. But it's not a result that will get Rafael Nadal worried, because he wasn't outplayed in that match.
He wasn't outplayed, and it pretty much went the distance, didn't it, Chris? And that'll put sort of a fire in his belly to say he needs to close out these matches. And also, I think he'll be quietly confident that he can still do the business, given that it went as far as it did.
I think especially because it went as far as it did, he's going to be confident because he didn't lose by big margins. It wasn't a sort of drastic, complete loss of form for him. I think he came into this, first of all, off the back of winning that French Open and equaling a record. So I think going forward, what he's trying to do is to manage to seal these wins. He lost in the 2010 and 2013 finals of this event, and I think he's going to be eager to get to that place and to actually close it out and finish and win. And he's able to do that because we didn't see a loss of form here. So it's still something that he can get in the bag. All he has to do is beat Tsitsipas.
Mike, just looking at, and in particular when we talk about Rafael Nadal, we tend to look at the surface and its impact on him. He's won 86 titles, but just one of those has come on an indoor hard court. So is that something we can read into, or are we overanalyzing?
Well, it's certainly not clay, Barry, because if it was clay, it was going to be a banker. He doesn't do as well as he does on clay, and I think that is the fair analysis. But to say that he doesn't do well on hard courts would be to do him an injustice. Remember, he's won at the US Open, where I think he's got what is it, 4 US Open titles? He's got more than Djokovic at the US Open. That's a hard court. He's also won at the Australian Open on a couple of occasions. So he knows how to win tournaments on those surfaces, but it's not his greatest strength. His greatest strength is on clay. That's where he performs well. And he's even poor on grass, mind you, because I think he's only won Wimbledon. What is it, just the solitary time, or a couple of times he's won at Wimbledon? So he would prefer to be playing on clay, but he's a decent player on the hard court as well.
In another match last night, Stefanos Tsitsipas beat Andrei Rublev 6-1, 4-6, 7-6. So just looking at the standings there, Group London standings, that's the group with Rafael Nadal. Dominic Thiem has got 2 wins. Of course, he's qualified for the semi-finals already. Hot on his heels is to hopefully follow him into the semi-finals, Rafael Nadal. 1 win and 1 loss he's got. Third is Stefanos Tsitsipas, again, identical record, 1 win, 1 loss. And then Andrei Rublev is at the bottom of that group with 2 losses. Group Tokyo standings, Novak Djokovic is in front with 1 win. Daniil Medvedev has 1 win as well. He's in second. Alexander Zverev, 1 loss. Diego Schwartzman has got 1 loss, and it's Group Tokyo that's in action this evening. Alexander Zverev takes on Diego Schwartzman, and then Novak Djokovic takes on Daniil Medvedev. And just looking at that Group Tokyo, Mikey, you got to think to yourself that it's likely that as it stands at the moment is how it'll probably finish.
Yeah, Barry, just taking a look at Group Tokyo, Novak Djokovic, he's already got a win under his belt. I think he's favourite to go on and win the whole thing. He's the world number 1. He has sealed that. He's going to finish the year as world number 1, and he wants to finish on a high after failing to win the French Open, after failing to win the US Open, where, of course, he was booted out in ignominious circumstances. But Daniil Medvedev, right now, he's looking decent. He beat Alexander Zverev, who a lot of people thought might finish second in this group. But the get-out-of-jail card for Zverev, I think, is the match versus Novak Djokovic. I don't fancy him, but if he manages to beat Nole, then he'll give himself a chance, because you've got to think in tonight's matches where Djokovic is playing Medvedev, Novak Djokovic will probably be keyed on to win that one. And then if Zverev can also beat Diego Schwartzman in the game that they are playing tonight, then he might have a chance. So the one who manages to beat Novak Djokovic will almost guarantee themselves qualification into the semi-finals.
Yeah, it's going to make for very interesting viewing, that one, when it comes down to it, Group Tokyo, because it's going to be a case of beating Novak Djokovic. But that is to assume, as you said, Michael, that he does beat Daniil Medvedev tonight. 2 players book a spot in the semi-finals. Novak Djokovic, of course, was honored on Sunday afternoon. He was presented with his ATP Tour #1 trophy from ATP chairman Andrea Gaudenzi for finishing as the year-end #1 in the ATP rankings for a record equaling 6th time.
Hi, this is Benjamin Locke. I'm on the Zimbabwe Davis Cup team, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We check off in Australia, where fast bowler Kane Richardson has withdrawn from Australia's limited over squad, which will face India to stay with his wife and newborn son in Adelaide. Richardson will be replaced by fellow quick Andrew Tye, who was part of the squad on Australia's recent white ball tour to England. Richardson informed selectors of his decision yesterday, hours before South Australia announced a 6-day circuit breaker lockdown to contain a sudden coronavirus cluster in the state capital, Adelaide. We head over to New Zealand, where All Black skipper Sam Cane has hit back at critics, questioning his leadership in the wake of last weekend's shock defeat by Argentina, accusing them of being ignorant about rugby. The gritty flanker, who became captain of the 3-time world champions earlier this year, said he shared their frustration, but hateful, disrespectful comments posted online were unhelpful. We'll touch down in South Africa, where Caster Semenya will appeal to the European Court of Human Rights to challenge regulations that require her to artificially lower her natural testosterone levels. Greg Knott, who has represented the South African for more than a decade, offered no time frame for the challenge at the Strasbourg-based court. However, it is unlikely a resolution will be found before the rearranged Tokyo Olympics next year.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, Chicanini midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Who hasn't covered themselves in glory? What hasn't gone according to plan? Who should hang their head in shame? Our plonker of the week on ZiFM Sport.
Now, at the beginning of the show, we talked about our new segment here on ZiFM Sport. It's called Plonker of the Week. Now, this is a title, an award we as a team would like to bestow upon a particular group or individual who's done something deep within the realms of ridiculousness. And this week, our first week, it goes to Zifa and the Ballmen. Yes, that's right. Ball men, not boys, because the team at ZiFA decided to have some middle-aged men actually play the role of ball boys at the match against Algeria, and the continent was watching as the ball men were on show, some of them even having a tumble while fetching the ball. Shame on you, ZiFA. You are Plonker of the Week.
Who hasn't covered themselves in glory? What hasn't gone according to plan? Who should hang their head in shame? Our Plonker of the Week on ZiFM Sport. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
Today, the beautiful game kicks off in South America, keeping you updated with what's happening there as far as the World Cup qualifiers are concerned for the 2022 World Cup, which will be played in the Middle East in the nation of Qatar. Now, two great counter-attacking goals from Nico Gonzalez and Lautaro Martinez saw Argentina make light work of Peru with a 2-0 win in South American World Cup qualifiers earlier this morning. Argentina's win sees them have 3 wins and a draw and have an unbeaten run of 11 matches stretching back to the semi-final of last year's Copa America versus Brazil. Alois, you got to say South American qualifying being the most difficult in the world, possibly because they look for 4 direct qualifiers and then a 5th one that goes via a playoff. But Argentina, unlike the last time in qualification for Russia 2018, this time they've enjoyed a really good start and they're looking quite strong.
Yeah, Argentina has always been a powerhouse in South America. The last qualifiers, they didn't do well. You know, they scrambled through. But this time around, just like Brazil, they've started very well. We have always looked at Argentina. Even before the qualifiers start, they're always the favorites to win the World Cup with Brazil. So now they have started well, they're doing well, and I'm sure that this time around, they might just qualify comfortably, just like Brazil. They have started well, and I'm sure that they will finish well.
Now, Chris, you know, there's always the argument that Lionel Messi doesn't quite cut it for Argentina. And yet when we take a look at the stats, they tell us a very different story. And those that watch Argentina will realize his importance. But it must be refreshing for fans of Argentine football that we're beginning to talk of the likes of Giovanni Lo Celso. We're beginning to talk of Leandro Paredes. We're not talking about Angel Di Maria or Sergio Aguero or Higuain. seen the names that we used to talk about in previous years. We're beginning to talk of a new generation, and perhaps that's what Argentine football needed, sort of like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely a breath of fresh air. And what Lionel Scaloni's done a good job of doing is creating balance in the side. Lionel Messi is a lot more integrated, and he sits basically at the hub of those partnerships of the players you mentioned. And what that does is that once a team achieves balance, you have better opportunities of bringing in these newer players to slot them in easier. And that's exactly what's happening. It's working for Argentina at the moment, and long may it continue.
Long may it continue. I think when we last did the South American updates, Barry, especially I think it was after the last round of qualifiers, we talked about there being a new scorer for Argentina. I think this was the first time it was happening in over 3 years, where the only scorer that they had was Lionel Messi. He was literally carrying the team on his back. In this game, Lionel Messi is not even on the score sheet. And Chris has mentioned that he's been integrated into the team more and is beginning to occupy that playmaker's role. So he might not be the one with the assist or the goal, but he's the player at the heart of Argentina's attacking moves.
He is, and the truth is that as long as Scaloni is able to maintain that team dynamic, that team element, then Argentina has every chance of staking a claim to the 2022 Qatar World Cup, because of the fact that there's been an overemphasis on Lionel Messi and what he can do for Argentina, rather than Lionel Messi's contribution to the overall team dynamic. The great part also is that you look at all of the Argentine names and stars that are coming up at the moment, the ones that you mentioned earlier, they're all at peak form for their club sides as well. So it means that there is a lot of continuity that potentially could be continued quite a bit. So I think this is an Argentine side that we can all get quite excited about.
So Argentina winning 2-0, and they're up to second place in World Cup qualifying South America. Brazil lead the way after they managed to win 2-0 on the road to Uruguay in a match, of course, which Lionel Messi's best friend, that is Luis Suarez, missed because of a COVID-19 infection. Brazil at the moment have played 4-1-4, full bag of 12 points. Argentina, courtesy of that draw, they have 2 points less and they are sitting in second place with 10 points. Ecuador have enjoyed a fine start to their qualification campaign. They've played 4 matches and they have 9 points. That's the solitary defeat. Paraguay are in fourth place with 6 points after 4 matches played. Uruguay sit outside of the automatic qualification places with 6 points from their 5 matches. But Alois, Chile will be worried. They've got just 1 win in their 4 matches, 2 defeats and the draw, and they're sitting in 6th place. So there's a lot of work to do for the likes of Arturo Vidal, for the likes of Alexis Sanchez, because they have been one of the better teams in South America, if not the best team in South America over the last 8 or so years, having won the last 2 editions of the Copa America.
Yeah, Mike, they've been the best, yes, but if you look at the squad now, it's actually an aging squad, and I actually think that this is their last dance if they are going to qualify for the World Cup. For most of the players, this is their last dance with the World Cup, and they need to pull up their socks. But I'm not surprised. You know, sometimes you've been good, your fortune starts winning. When you look at Alexis Sanchez, he's not that player that he was fantastic at Arsenal. Arturo Vidal is not that player that was fantastic at Bayern Munich. You can actually see that these are their star players. Their stars are just going down. So they need to just pull up their socks, scrape through, qualify, and have their last dance. If they don't do that, I'm afraid that they might just miss out on qualification this time around.
Another team that might miss out on qualification this time round is Colombia. That is the team that James Rodriguez plays for. They are in 7th place, just the solitary win for them, 4 points in the bag. In 8th is Venezuela. 9th is Peru, vanquished by Argentina last night. And then sitting at the bottom is Bolivia, with just a 1 point from their 4 matches played.
Horsepower unmatched. Torque to beat the best. Speed unrivaled. Sleek and easy on the eye. Let's get behind the wheel of football engineered to perfection. The Bundesliga, made in Germany.
Let's go into Europe, where the big story is all around Germany and indeed Spain, because Spain was the inflictor of the pain on the German side. And Germany's coach, Yogi Löw, was at a loss to explain his side's humiliating 6-0 loss to Spain in the UEFA Nations League clash, which caused them to miss out on a place in the competition's Final Four. Germany have been on a downward path since crashing out in the group stages of the 2018 World Cup and have won only 3 of their last 8 internationals. Let's hear from Germany coach Jogi Löw following last night's defeat.
Abend, an dem uns und unserer Mannschaft eigentlich auch nichts.
It was an evening on which our team did not succeed, not at all. That's why we're all very disappointed and absolutely angry, of course, because you could see that we were not present on the pitch. You could tell by our body language and the way we lost the duels. We already gave up our line, and our organization after the first goal was all over the place. We opened spaces for the Spanish players, and they took advantage of that mercilessly. And if you're behind 3-0 or 4-0, then of course, you don't stand a chance anymore.
Chris, it's been horrendous. You look at the almost dismissive manner in which Spain treated Germany last night, and their demise was hardly surprising because they have been absolutely desperate of late, haven't they?
They've been absolutely desperate of late. That defense has needed improving and work for a long time now. And it's no surprise that Spain was able to get 6 goals past them. And this was not even a situation where it was a slip at some point. I think right from the first minute in this particular match, Spain was right on top of Germany, and at no point was Germany able to recover. It was an absolutely woeful performance. Apparently, this is their worst defeat since the 1950s. So it's embarrassing for Jogi Löw, it's embarrassing for Germany as well, and it's going to raise a lot of questions, especially around Jogi Löw as the coach.
Mike, I read a tweet of yours that said that if Jogi Löw had any sort of self-respect and respect for Germany, he would fall on his sword. Do you maintain that here, live on air?
Absolutely, Barry, because the important thing that you mentioned is that this just didn't start yesterday or last week. This started at least 2.5 years ago at the World Cup in Russia, where Germany were knocked out in very embarrassing circumstances at the group stage for the defending champions. And they've been woeful. So this is not just about losing 6-0 to Spain last night. It's also about the stat that you also mentioned, that they've just won 3 of their last 8 matches. So this is a team that's not playing well, hasn't played well for a long time, and it's a team that, even if you talk about regeneration, Spain talked about regeneration, we're beginning to see the results. Netherlands talked about regeneration, we saw the results under Ronald Koeman, and we're beginning to see other nations. Argentina is rebuilding, we're beginning to see the results that are coming forward. So where is the work? Where are the positive results for Joachim Löw? They are nowhere to be seen, and this was humiliating, and he should fall on his sword. This would not have happened if Mats Hummels was in that team, if Jerome Boateng was in that team, if Thomas Müller was in that team. Right there, Barry, if you have to mention the top 10 performers in the Bundesliga over the last 12 months, those 3 names will be in that top 10 list. Mesut Ozil, I can understand with his problems at Arsenal, but he's also been shown the exit from the German national team. And then you talk about Lars and Sven Bender, the twins, who don't even get a look into the German national team. We're not even part of this squad. Leon Goretzka, arguably Bayern Munich's most important player, didn't even start. He was sitting on the bench. If you can start for Bayern Munich, surely you can start for Germany.
Absolutely. And Mike, running through those names, Alois, sort of points to where some of the problems are. Number one, leadership. And then last night, you look at that Germany midfield versus the Spanish midfield, which absolutely bossed it. The Germany midfield was overrun, and no surprise, given that you've got the sort of talent that was mentioned by Mike sitting out.
Yeah, you know, there might be some internal politics probably that is happening over there. When you look at Germany, they've got the talent. You know, when you look at Bayern Munich steamrolled everybody. You know, when you are the best team in the world, then it goes without saying that your national team is dominated by that club. So when the national team is dominated by that club, it means that you can actually go on and steamroll over everybody as well at national level. That's actually the norm. Whenever the teams are dominating in your country, you also dominate world football as well. So I'm not so sure. They were bossed around, obviously, and I'm not sure what is happening. But when I look at Germany, I was actually looking at a World Cup winner, but I'm not sure what's happening.
World Cup winner in Germany, World Cup winner in Spain, but it was the 2010 champions of the greatest show on earth, as it is called, the FIFA World Cup, who prevailed 6-0. Drubbing for Germany, and hopefully this will cause some reflection, some introspection, particularly in the Love household.
Portugal's Ruben Dias scored his first 2 international goals to help the European champions to a 3-2 win at 10-men Croatia in their Nations League clash, stretching their unbeaten run against the host to 7 games. Now, just taking a look at his individual performance, Alois, Ruben Dias has had a fine performance for Portugal, and he's going to be an incredibly important player going forward.
Yeah, of course, he has been important. He has done so well. And when you look at the Portugal side, Portugal has got an array of talent, but for him to be doing what he has done so far, I think he is actually one of the important members of Portugal going forward. I agree with you 100%.
Barry, you take a look at Croatia, not a terrible performance last night, but if you take a look at the group, they finished third on 3 points ahead of Sweden. And in this particular group, they would have wanted to do better.
They would have, and in truth, they narrowly miss out on relegation, or avoid relegation, to put it correctly. And they will introspect after this, given that this tournament will come back, and they will still be in this group. They'll want to perform a lot better. They have been able to nick results from various top teams, even at some stage world champions. So I think they'll look at themselves and say, with a bit of renewal, as the theme of today's show certainly seems like it's being, Croatia might be in the final reckoning. I don't think it's going to happen imminently. I think they've got some choppy waters to navigate first and foremost, but certainly in time, Croatia will be back there or thereabouts.
A quick look at Group A3, France going straight to the semi-finals. They have 16 points, top of the group. Portugal in second with 13, Croatia in third with 3 points, and Sweden in fourth, also with 3 points, but inferior goal difference.
The Nerazzurri, the Black and Blues, Inter Milan.
It's Romelu Lukaku, and it was never in doubt. He's a beast at the best of times, but this season he has become a monster.
The Giallorossi, the Yellow and Reds, AS Roma.
Velotti has a go! Tremendous hits! That's what he's capable of.
La Viola, the Purple Ones, Fiorentina.
Franck Ribéry seals a glorious win for Fiorentina with a sumptuous goal at San Siro.
The Bianconeri, the Black and Whites, Juventus.
Ronaldo seals yet another 3 points for Juventus.
Tough yet colourful, the best of Italian football on Z.
The action in the UEFA Nations League continues tonight, and Poland as well as the Netherlands square off in Krakow tonight, knowing that they both require victory to retain hope of qualifying for the UEFA Nations League finals. The visitors head into the contest holding a 1-point advantage over their hosts, whose 2-0 defeat in Italy gifted the Azzurri control of League A Group 1. Just before I get to hear the thoughts of Barry on this one, just to give you the standings in Group A1, Italy are leading the way. They've got 9 points from their 5 matches played. They've got 3 draws and 2 wins. The Netherlands are in second place. Poland are in third. And out of the running is Bosnia-Herzegovina after managing just the 2 draws in their 5 matches played. So it means that they've got 2 points. So they were well and truly out of their depth. But there's very little separating, Barry. Poland in third, Italy in first. But you've got to say that you'd want to be Italy on this evening, because they know that if they win, if they do the business, they qualify. But the Poles won't be giving up too easily. But the problem is, standing in their way are the Dutch.
Yeah, 100%. And in truth, a point does it for Italy. So fate is firmly in their hands. But now the genuine jeopardy is in that match that you mentioned, which is Poland taking on the Netherlands in Poland. So it's a genuinely entertaining or potentially entertaining affair because both teams will be going out for the win. A draw doesn't help, only helps Netherlands. So Poland will likely go and try and get the win, meaning that we're likely to see an open affair tonight.
Open affair, Chris, and it'll mean that Robert Lewandowski is the player that Poland will be looking to. He is world class, arguably the best striker in the world. Some will say the best player in the world at the moment, if we're going on form, and they'll look to him to put in a match-winning performance.
And what they can count on, what anyone can count on when it comes to Robert Lewandowski is that when a team needs to score, when they need the points, he's the kind of player that's able to do that. He's able to get those goals, sometimes in incredible positions, and that's what you want, especially in a match like this where they desperately need to get those points. So Robert Lewandowski for them, an important player, and he's going to be able to score those goals.
Now, Arlo is taking a look at the Dutch. Their coach, Frank de Boer, had come under increasing scrutiny after enduring a stuttering start to his tenure after taking over from Ronald Koeman. They managed to win their last game courtesy of a Gini Wijnaldum brace when they beat Bosnia-Herzegovina, expectedly, but at least it means that they found their way back to winning ways. This should give them some sort of confidence, the knowledge that, you know what, we can still win games.
Yeah, I think when he took off, I believe that he took a side that was actually on the up. A very promising side that everybody was looking at and saying this is one team for the future. After even Ajax Amsterdam had done well as well in the Champions League the previous season. So I think there were a lot of expectations, and he didn't start well, like you said. But we all know the potential that the Dutch have got. They have got a squad that is capable of winning. So by winning their previous match, I agree with you 100% that, they're actually regaining that belief that, we've got a good squad, we've got a young squad, energetic, we play good football, total football, we can actually do this. We have got emerging top talent in the world that we can actually count on. So I believe that, with that kind of belief, they can actually go into the next match thinking that, we can actually go on and win matches and probably save pace and actually be respected and end in a respectable position.
Well, they'll have to do the business without their three best centre-backs. Virgil van Dijk is a long-term absentee. Matthijs de Ligt is also out. And recently, Nathan Ake has been ruled out by injury. So it's a tough ask for the Dutch defensively, but they'll have to show character in this particular game if they're to make it to the finals of the Nations League.
That's the one to watch tonight. That's the one I'll certainly be watching tonight because it's potentially a tasty affair. Hopefully this has been a tasty affair for you. Wacky Wednesday here on ZiFM Sport. Tomorrow's Throwback Thursday, our shortened edition, and we are proud to bring you an exclusive interview with Sebastian Summerfield. He's a 17-year-old footballer in an academy in the UK, and he is about to make a decision on which country he wants to represent. Hopefully that'll be Zimbabwe. So tune in for that show tomorrow at 6:05. For now, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.